Welcome to Seeking Focus, episode number 13. And in this episode, we're going to have a chat about our travel photography destinations, and also we're going to chat about old school film wedding photography. So enjoy the episode, guys, and thanks for tuning in again.
Welcome to Seeking Focus, a podcast that provides photographers and videographers with a place to critically compare technology, share ideas, and enhance their skills.
Hey Marty, how are ya?
Hey,
Yeah, what's up?
remember that commercial was about 10 years ago, 15 years ago?
It's
Pick up the phone.
It's timeless. It's
It
timeless.
is timeless, man. I actually showed it to one of my mates the other day, and he's he goes, "I gotta find it. This is such a cool commercial." Hey, what? Hey, yo, pick up the phone. Hey, Rob, pick up the phone.
What, you talking to me?
I'm talking to you. Yo, pick up. Anyway, Rob, we've got Rob here today as well, and we had Rob a few hundred years ago on talking about his work and having a chat about a few things. And today we thought about we're going to do
A bit of a follow up because we actually touched on. Touched.
Did you touch me?
Yeah, we touched. We touched on photography that Rob was doing earlier on in his life, being film photography at weddings, and we also did some travel stuff as well.
Yeah.
And that brought up a whole bunch of other stories there, and we thought, well, why don't we continue it on?
Yeah, I think it's a great topic to talk about, and we've got Rob on the show again.
Hey, Rob.
And
G'day,
hey,
gentlemen.
Rob.
Good to catch up
How
again.
you doing with that?
Very nice. Very nice.
Very nice.
Very nice.
Borat.
Yes.
Yakshimash.
Yeah, Yakshimash. Yeah, that's it.
Hey, we're both, we've got the Polish background, so Yakshimash is kind of, it's in our blood, baby.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yakshimash.
Yeah. But it's funny because they say it's Kazakhstan.
Yeah, but in Polish it's the same, man. Yakshimash.
I think it is. Dobrze, dziękuję, panie. Dziękuję.
Yeah, Polish all the way, baby.
That's
Oh,
it.
pierogi.
And you'll notice a silence on my behalf because I have no idea what you're talking about.
What language do you speak, mate?
Aussie, mate. Aussie. Aussie, yeah.
Yeah, and you really look it too.
I do. No, I'm mixture, Greek, Egyptian, French, a bit of everything. But generally I say Greek. So
So pure breed mongrel.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's the one. Yeah, Rob knows it all about it.
That's it, yeah. All right, so let's get on with the show. So let's talk about travel photography.
Yeah, what we've all pretty much done, fair bit of travel photography, and we love it, and we want to continue on. So what do you think?
Okay, so, we've done travel together, and we've done photography together, but we've also traveled to other countries independently. So, Marty, what countries have you been to?
Oh, mate, I don't think I've got enough hands and toes and fingers and toes and whatever else to talk about. But look, I think I've done, just to name a few, I did Norway, Iceland, India, Nepal. I did a fair bit of Poland traveling. I went through Dubai. What else? Oh my God, Italy. Travel all around Australia, so Tassie and obviously Melbourne and NT and Northern Territory, Queensland. Oh my God, I forgot. You put me on the spot. Come on, give me some more. You give me some names, and I might think of others as well.
Okay. Well, I started off with myself. I always wanted to travel Australia first of all before I went overseas. So I've extensively travelled across Australia. Then after that, I travelled to Europe. So Italy, Greece. I was going to say Egypt. That was not part of Europe. Turkey, France. Where else have we been? So Egypt as well. A lot of Asian countries, Singapore, China.
Asian countries, yeah. I've been through Bangkok and,
Japan. You went to Japan?
Yeah, I did in Japan,
You did Japan?
Yes.
Beautiful place, Japan.
Yeah,
Beautiful
they've been to a lot of places. I'm sure they'll come back to me later on. Rob, where have you been to?
Look, I travelled late, and my first real trip was probably the tip of Australia, going up the old telegraph track. In a full drive. That was great.
Sexy.
I went with my brother and my dad. And that
Very
was
interesting place.
10 years ago. So that was really my first trip. Loved it, yeah. Going up through there and just going up through the East Coast. I spent, 10, 12 weeks doing that. So that was it. And then after that, I got the bug. So China, Japan, I think I mentioned that earlier. Then was Vietnam, Bali, road trip around Tassie, and New Zealand a couple of times, Uluru a couple of times.
Yeah.
and
Have you done much of Europe?
England. No, well, England and Ireland.
Okay.
Yeah.
Ireland would be nice.
Brilliant. Yeah. I think the Game of Thrones was
Yeah,
predominantly filmed there, and they've got a lot of the film sites and scenes and that around that area, and the giant causeway and a couple of natural.
A lot of whiskey.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah.
No. Guinness, mate.
Oh, Guinness. Guinness.
Sorry, you did mention Bali, which is another state in Australia.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah, that's right.
It seems like everyone has been there, except for me, I might add. Have you
And
been?
me, I never been to Bali.
You haven't been to Bali?
No.
Well, there you go.
We were supposed to go through COVID when COVID first kicked off, and then, well, that's all got cancelled, and we lost a hell of a lot of money, and never been there.
No, there you go. Rob, tell us about Bali. Is it a place that you would go to take photos? Or is it just a place you go get drunk?
Yeah, it was. Well, I didn't go there and get drunk. That's for sure. It is, very touristy, and it. Look, if you go up in the mountains where the monkeys are and that, there were some really great shots up through there. They do have some beautiful countryside and that.
Yeah, a lot of rice fields apparently as well.
Yeah. But I think with Bali it was more just a holiday, and when you're in those the towns, they're very very tourist orientated. So it wasn't.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, there was a few little temples here and there and bits and pieces, but nothing like what I sort of experienced in China and Japan, Vietnam especially.
A lot
as
more
well.
culture, obviously. China,
Yeah,
Japan, culture-wise.
absolutely.
The whole country is driven by culture, though. Isn't it? Yeah.
Vietnam is amazing. I think I'd like to go to Cambodia. I think that's another good one.
That was one of the trips that we were planning to do.
We were, and it
through
fell.
COVID.
It did fall through, unfortunately.
Yeah.
But I've still got that itinerary, and I'll still
keep hold of it, man.
Oh, yeah,
'cause I definitely want to go there.
Yeah, definitely. Have you been to Hong Kong, you guys?
Well, I have. Yeah, loved it.
Yeah, it was nice, isn't it?
You know what? The most I went up to the peak in Hong Kong.
Did you walk up there? Don't tell me you caught the tram.
No, I didn't. No, we caught the train.
Oh, come on, man.
But hey, you know what? It's all about the view, though. Honestly, it's to seeing that view, it's just breathtaking. You know?
Yeah, it's a beautiful view, isn't it?
It's fantastic.
Looking down at the city and they're just like pencils.
Yeah,
buildings,
yeah,
and they're
yeah.
just everywhere. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
Actually, I went to Disneyland there too.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah.
Never been there, but okay.
Because I went there all on my own, so it was a bit odd seeing a 42-year-old man enjoying Disneyland on his own. I can tell you right now.
I actually went to Disneyland in Singapore, and I thoroughly enjoyed it. I didn't think I would. I took the kids there, thinking, let's do it for the kids. It was a great place. It was awesome.
Yeah, it was really Superman ride. It was wonderful. I kept going back on that one.
Have you been to Disneyland?
No, I haven't actually. No, I'm just trying to think. No, we kind of tried it. I think isn't there one in Japan or something rather? Or not?
Yeah, I think
They're everywhere.
Yeah, there would be everyone.
Yeah, I think there is.
But I try to stay away from that stuff.
Sure, you do.
Mate, where's your inner child?
Yeah. I did one of the best locations that I think I've been to was Norway and Iceland, though. Having seen the mountains and me having the Polish background, I love mountains, and to me that was like the Mecca for me. It was bloody cold because I went in Feb to see the Northern Lights as well. But hey, it's definitely worth it. Cold but definitely worth it.
How long did you go for?
So we did. Oh, good question. That was probably about 6 years ago now, and I was in Norway for about 2 weeks and Iceland for 2 weeks.
Right. Okay.
Just enough time to be able to sort of catch the Northern Lights and be able to see. If you see that green skies over your head, it's just like phenomenal. It's like so breathtaking and surreal feeling. I don't know if you ever have you seen the Northern Lights? Or
I've never seen them, not live. I've seen them on on TV.
You got to see it live.
Oh, I'd love to.
You kind of at one stage I was just doing a time lapse of it, and I laid down, on the snow and just looked up, and you see it. This thing moves so fast as well, and the colors, the greens and the purples, and you just go, where am I? You know what I mean?
Did you get butterflies in your stomach?
I did.
No, I thought so.
I did. It was amazing.
They say that the lights don't actually appear constantly. It's actually it's a rarity to see them.
It is. So basically, the way it works is there's a solar flare from the sun. Mm-hmm. Now, this solar flare it happens fairly regular basis. They've got measurements now, so I think there is a website that you can jump onto and actually measure that at the moment. But you only got about, I think, 5 or 6 hours before you actually prediction. You know what I mean? So they can actually predict it, but you only get about 5 or 6 hours. So down in Victoria, there is possibility of actually seeing it. So if you go down to Cape Schanck, you'll be able to actually see it very faint.
That's the Southern Lights.
Correct. That's
Yes,
the Southern
yeah.
Lights. Yeah.
I believe
So-
in Tasmania, there's actually the ability to see from
A
Tasmania.
lot better, yeah. So
there
New,
was-
New Zealand, Tassie, but yeah, you can see them if they're fairly strong. You can actually see it. So I think there is a scale. I can't remember the actual scale, but we'll probably pop that on the notes. But there is a scale, and I think if it's over 4 or 5, you'll be able to see it from Victoria. And I think a couple of years back, actually, it was so strong. The solar flare was actually so strong. The northern light, or the southern lights were actually. You could see it from Uluru, apparently.
Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know
That's
people
amazing.
in Ballarat who have actually seen it.
Yeah.
which
So
is-
the solar flare's got to be like over the scale of 6 or 7 to be able to see it.
Is there a website? Do you watch?
Yeah,
Did
there
you
is
do
a
it?
there
yeah,
is,
there is a
yeah.
website.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you can I think it's like an Aurora Watch or something like that. And then you can actually see it, and then gives you a prediction next like day or two what they think is going to happen from the solar flare. Obviously, the magnetic fields cause that phenomenon.
Yep.
But yeah, they can only predict it fairly accurately within sort of 6 or 7 hours, apparently. Oh, yeah, don't quote me on that.
Well,
Okay.
it's actually funny because my wife had organised a trip to Tassie and she wanted to take me there. She didn't realise it didn't happen all the time.
No.
And when she told me about it, I was like, oh, come on, seriously. You know, we're going to go there. We're going to stand around like idiots. Nothing's going to happen. You know,
Yeah.
I'm not going to waste our time and money. We can go somewhere else, you know, somewhere warm. Pardon me. And basically, I said no to it. And on the week that we were meant to be there, they had one of the biggest solar flares there. And it was just like meant to be
Yeah.
amazing. And I was just like, oh.
You know what? Seriously though, guys, you do have to see it once in your life. And apparently the best location. So what happens is the timing wise is best around sort of January, February, because obviously the darkest parts of the Earth is obviously swung towards the sort of, you know, dark part, but also the location wise will be Iceland and Norway. Within Norway, it's best way to see it from Abisko. Abisko is a town where it's surrounded by mountains. What happens is the reason why it's the best town is because the mountains actually stop all the clouds coming through, so you can actually see it without the cloud cover. So yeah, definitely worthwhile.
Right. Well, being surrounded by mountains, it'd be pretty cold there too.
Bloody freezing.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, but I love it. You know what? I've got a bald head, but I just put a couple of beanies on and love it.
Extra socks. Rob,
Yeah,
what
well,
about-
I've seen the beanies you've purchased in the past. I don't think you should be wearing them.
Sorry, I know which one you're referring to.
Yeah.
So, what's your favourite location around the world that you've been to for photography?
Oh, look, I think I don't think I have a favourite as such. I think each place I've been to, there's been an amazing place. Like if you go to England, you know, going to Stonehenge, for instance, or going to Shakespeare's birthplace, going to Nepal and going to Lumbini and going to Buddha's birthstone.
Oh, yeah.
You know, it draws emotion. You know, visiting the walking the Great Wall of China. And there's 3 different areas you can go, and I went to the more remote one where it's overgrown and there's hardly any tourists there, and you need to hike it a bit
Brilliant.
more and
Yeah.
experience it. You know, seeing the terracotta warriors, I walked into that building and had goosebumps, like literally
Wow.
goosebumps my hair. You know, it was just amazing. So you know, I think there's so many areas, so many countries that, you know, they all have something really nice and beautiful and special.
But which has been the most memorable? Have you had a most memorable? If you had to pick one, come on.
Uh-oh.
No, well, I think the goosebumps with the terracotta warriors. I don't know why. It was just the size of it, and knowing about it. You know, wanting to go there and all this. It was that was pretty special. Only because I had goosebumps. I don't understand why, but yeah.
It's funny. Sorry, I'm going to answer that question from my end. I think Varanasi, India, for me. You know what I mean? It's funny because a lot of people don't want to go to India, and I think definitely worthwhile. Like if you are into photography, I think it's definitely worth it. And like for me, Varanasi was that sort of turning point where it's very spiritual at one end, and photographically really impressive because of the color and everything else. And I just felt like, it's such a. I'm gonna sound like a bit of a, you know, but it turned me like into a better person almost. It's very spiritual. I felt almost alive there. So I think for me, Varanasi, probably India would be in that space. What about you, Evan?
Ooh, it's a hard one. Actually, just thought of one place that we forgot to mention, South America.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, we travelled to South America too, Machu Picchu and all the rest of that. Yeah, that was a dream come true. For me, this is going to be a weird one. I think one of the most memorable places for me was Central Australia. I've travelled extensively, but I've always loved Australia. And we were camping out in the middle of a stockyard, a huge stockyard. And it was 3 o'clock in the morning. Got up, had to use the bathroom, and so I opened up the tent. I'm butt naked. Sorry, G rating on this, but close your ears.
We're not going to post photos of that.
No post. There's no links to that one. So I stepped out of my tent. It was 3 o'clock in the morning. It was summer, so it was warm still, but not too warm. So it was nice weather. Full moon, and you could see everything just lit up for kilometers around you. It was the most amazing thing you've ever seen. And I took some photos. Took out the tripod. Took some photos. It was just amazing. And then once I finished that, I just stood there and I could feel the powdery soft sand, because in a stockyard with all the cattle and stuff, it pounds the dirt into almost like talcum powder. And I'm standing there, I'm just thinking, wow, this is amazing. I just started running through this field in the middle of the night, 3 o'clock, everyone's sleeping, there's me running through the moon with nothing on my day. And it was just enlightened. It was just wow.
It made you feel special, obviously.
It was just I've never felt like that before.
Interesting.
It was just the white, the orange, the colours. It was just the peacefulness. And I'm running along and I'm like, whoa, I feel so free. And then bang, I hit a barbed wire fence.
Butt naked.
Butt naked. I've still got the scars. I flipped over this barbed wire fence, which was rusted. It got caught into my thighs. I'm hanging over the top. I'm screaming. Right? I'm trying to get back up. I grab onto the fence with my hand.
Did you get hung up?
Oh, yeah. My legs were in the air. My head was in the ground. Face full of dirt, soft dirt.
I don't want to know where you got hung up.
It was, anyway. And so I'm trying to get back up. I grabbed the fence with my hands, and my hand went straight into the barbed wire fence and cut my hand open on a rusty fence. I limped back into the tent and went back to sleep. I've still got scars across my legs from the barbed wire fence.
Trust Evan to come up with a story like that.
It was, I got to say, other than the barbed wire fence, which just adds a nice sort of spin to it, it was just awe-inspiring. It was just, I've never experienced anything like that again. And to be honest with you, I'll never be running naked in a paddock ever again as well. But yeah,
there's inspiring places, and there's obviously locations that are just so memorable. Like Rob, you just mentioned this Turkora Warriors. It's
Did you run through there naked? Or?
No. I wouldn't be back here. I think that'd be
locked up in China.
Yeah, the last place you want to be locked up, I think.
But yeah, I seriously think there's a couple of places where we've been, like South America and Machu Picchu. It's so almost.
It's picturesque.
It is, man. You kind of you walk up that hill and you kind of look at it and you go, yeah, definitely bloody worth it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It was just love it. And but yeah, look, every one of us have different stories, and obviously we can talk about that sort of stuff as well. So yeah.
I have a question for you guys, right? If you had to take one camera, one lens, one tripod, what would it be? You can take filters. You're allowed to take filters. You can tell us about those too. But one lens, one camera, one tripod. What would it be? For traveling the world?
Oh, mate, you put me on the spot there now. I mean, every place that I went to, I always took my Canon 5D. But since I had the Sony, I'm thinking maybe Sony. But then with the Sony, you kind of got to bring that little blower. Remember, Rob?
Yes.
That was a pain in the ass, wasn't it?
Yeah, it's a magnet for dust. That
it is.
I don't know. Maybe it's the chip. I don't know what it is.
I've got the same problem with my camera, man. So look, the A7S S3 will probably be my weapon of choice at this stage because my newest camera. It's only 12 megapixels, but the image quality out of that's coming well. Lens wise, probably 24 to 70, 2.8, I think. I don't know. Yeah.
Yeah. What type of filters?
Oh, come on, man.
Come on.
I think at this stage I'll probably say Nisi.
Mm-hmm.
A couple of but yeah, I don't know, man. Yeah, a couple of grads, couple of NDs, I guess. See what comes up.
Any UVs in there?
No, I hate UVs. Rob doesn't know that, but
why don't you like UV?
I just despise them.
Every time he goes out, there's never a filter on the front of his camera to protect his lens, and I've always got one on.
See that the different types of photography, man. So it's I seriously think that UV filter degrades your image.
Oh,
That's
do you
my personal-
really?
Yeah, man.
Look, to some degree, it
Wow.
would. It's like
Maybe if it's scratched.
well, yeah.
Well, the only reason why I would put it on if and where we had a few other guys in the show in the past mountain biking, maybe if I'm taking images of mountain biking and I just know that it's going to be dirt and crap flying around.
It's actually the first time I went to a mountain bike race, and I actually put my brand new filter on the front, a UV filter on a brand new lens, the 16 to 35 L series. And I went out, and the first bike that went past threw up a rock, hit the actual filter, the UV filter, and left
Saved
this.
your ass.
Well, it didn't say. Well, I guess it did, but left a massive chip in it.
No, that's exactly right. So that if I had a UV filter, that's what I would use it for. What do you use it for work? Or Rob?
Yeah, well, look at
Really?
Well, look, like with the Nikon, like if you got the 60mm macro lens, for instance, that when you fully extend out the internal lens sort of opens up on the inside, you start getting dust and dirt in there.
Okay.
It compromises the functionality of the lens over time.
Okay.
So I've always
Each to their own.
had UV. It's just one of those things. Plus, it actually protects the coating of the actual glass.
Look, I'm not denying it doesn't protect. I just seriously think like one day I actually went out into the city and just taking photos of night shots and whatever else, and took a couple of with and without, and then I just saw the clear window without.
Oh, look, any filter you're going to put in the front, be it, like a tinted filter or whatever, it's going to cause degradation. Yeah. But it all comes down to quality. Like I've just spent $220 on a UV filter for my lens. It's one of the top of the range ones, and I'm an avid user of this lens. Everywhere I go around the world, I carry it. So I want to make sure that the lens protected, be it rain, be it sandstorms, be it whatever. I use this lens, and if I've got that exposed, it's just going to get wrecked. But back to the question, what tripod would you take?
Oh my God, seriously.
Come on.
He's a man of gadgets and equipment. He loves it.
He's got like a full room and he just watches that stuff.
If I want to be like you, I want to know what equipment you're carrying so I can go on a trip and be just like you.
Look, my travel tripod would be a Surui. I can't remember. It's a carbon fiber, small little thing. Look, I've paid probably about $350 for it. I seriously think it's worth every single penny.
Have you changed the head on it, or is it still stock?
I did change the head on it. Yeah, it's a Manfrotto head.
Yeah.
I really hate the Surui heads. But yeah, look, that tripod is sturdy, and it's rock solid as well. So yeah, that's Surui is probably my weapon of choice for the tripod.
Okay, so we've got the Sony, the Surui, and what was the lens again?
Nisi.
No, that's
sorry.
The lens.
Yeah, 24 to 70.
24 to 70.
GM.
Over to you, Rob. What would you carry?
Right, I'm going to really be very disappointing here for you.
But
you're equipment
the
lover.
thing is, every single photographer does different things. And that's what we sort of hear about.
But like when I went to TIP and when I went to China and Japan, see, I've changed the way I do photography and high end stuff. Look, this is going to be embarrassing just to even say it. I'd be taking my Lumix Panasonic. A tough little camera. I love diving. I can go underwater. I can drop it while I'm parasailing, and I'm guaranteed to get a photo. And look, when I do a lot of my travel booklets and that, and doing those little bits and pieces, it's sort of handy. I just grab it and bang, and it's still I can blow it up. It's still not too bad.
How many megapixels is that?
Oh, jeez,
bugger all.
Yeah. No.
But the funny thing is, it's the Sony that I sort of mentioned.
Maybe?
Yeah, the Sony that I mentioned is only 12 megapixels, but the image quality out of that is fantastic. Yeah. And I'm not going to print it out on a massive billboard or whatever.
Well, this is exactly right.
Yep. And I think 8, 10, 12 megapixels, 20 megapixels. I've printed images from 20 megapixels and they're fantastic. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Right. No, look,
I know your Nikon at work. That's probably 37 megapixels.
Yeah,
or that's pretty.
I've got a couple there, and I've got all the old ones that with the film.
Yeah.
But look, when you got to understand, when I first started traveling, I didn't have any really equipment of my own. Yep. Once I got out of the weddings and sold all my film stuff, because I was out working, all the equipment's there.
Yep.
So when I did start to travel, it was just I just wanted to be lightweight.
So portability and practicality is your key.
Absolutely, yeah. And look, I know. I mean, it's it'll get me the images I want. But yeah, I'm not going to be sitting there doing time lapse and beautiful sunsets and things like that. No.
So just to clarify for people who don't know the actual camera model, that's one of those little pocket cams with the fixed lens.
Yep.
So you can't change the lenses or anything like that.
Nothing.
It's waterproof, shockproof,
Yes.
whatever else proof.
Little tough camera.
Yeah. Is it the brown one? I remember you holding
It was orange.
orangey brown, like a burnt orange sort of thing.
That's the one.
That's the one. Yeah.
You had that for the last about 10 years, I'd say.
I've had that. Yeah, I've had that over 10 years, and
If it works, it works.
And I still take it. Whenever, as you know, when I go travelling. I mean, yeah, I've got the Sony, and look, the Sony is beautiful, but yeah, it's just chuck it in the pocket, and I don't have to worry about it.
Okay.
And whip it out whenever I need to.
Whip it up.
That's it.
What about you?
Yeah,
Evan, come on, man.
Now-
I know you want to bring your Canon.
and you got all the equipment to bring. So which one you taking?
I'm definitely my Canon 5D Mark IV. That's my go-to camera.
Chunky camera, man.
It is. It's unfortunate, but it is what it is, and I just live with it. It's work out.
Well, from the weight perspective, though, we did mention in the past was, the weight is actually very similar to,
the new model.
mirrorless.
Yeah. But in saying that, I mean, at the end of the day, they are heavy cameras. It's like carrying a brick in your backpack. But, if that's what you're going there for, you do want to take the best that you can, For the style that I do, I want to do that, tripod shot, that wide angle, capture everything, the sun going up, that's important for me. It's very different to what you do, Rob. So you're
Very candid, very photojournalistic sort of, almost like back in the old day having... just a basic point and shoot Lumix.
No, that's
simple.
What lens are it?
Well, with me, it's basically sit there and wait for the perfect moment and then capture and do multiple HDRs and all the rest of that. With the lens, I'm torn. So I've got my Canon 16-35, which is my go-to lens for all wide. Yeah, lens. It's just beautiful. But when I travel, I'm torn because I do want to take that with me, and sometimes I take that and another lens. I think it's a 24-105 that I've got is the other one.
Yeah, the F4, yeah.
Yeah, it's an F4 as you mentioned. So it doesn't give you that low light sort of thing. But if you're on a tripod and you're doing long exposure,
it doesn't matter.
Yeah. And the good thing about that is you can do candid shots similar to what Rob does. But so if you're traveling with family, bang, bang, bang. But if you want to do landscapes, you can also open up the 24.
Yeah.
So Rob,
No, did you say 24 to what?
105.
105. Being such a wide focal length distance, what's the quality like on either end?
It's actually it's quite good. Look, the reason it's my go-to lens is because of late, because I'm traveling with family. Sometimes I want to take photos of the kids. I don't want to get the 16 mil photo where the kids are dot in the background. So it allows you to zoom up. I think when we traveled to India, I actually took that lens with me. And I actually think I also took the 16-35. I think I was carrying too much back then, but that
I think you took the 70-200 as well. Maybe that was
no, that was yours. No, we took two lenses each. I was the wide angle, you were the zoom. Yeah,
killer.
You got some great shots out of that.
Yeah, I did, but mate, carrying that thing through Himalayas, man, it killed me.
Could have been worse. It could have been a Sony.
Yeah, okay.
Well, the Sony version of that weighs almost
about the same.
No, wasn't it half a kilo light heavier?
No, I don't know. I can't remember the specifics, but I got a feeling it's probably roughly about the 2.8 version. It's roughly about the same, I'd say.
So, but anyway, so that's the two lenses that I sort of struggle with trying to decide which one I want to use. And I've got a Benro carbon fiber tripod, which I picked up on eBay. It was discontinued, so I was trying to flog it off. Once again, converted the head to a Manfrotto like you've done. It's a ball head, so lightweight. And I think it weighs about a kilo with the head on it.
Yeah.
So, it's not the strongest tripod, but it's got a hook on the bottom, put your bag on it. It's makes up for the weight of the camera, I guess. Filters, use my Lees, graduated. Occasionally, I travel with some of the super stoppers, the Lee super stoppers, which basically allow you to...
You really like your long exposure stuff,
I do. That's why, yeah.
Sometimes you do 2-3 minute exposures.
I've got some that I did in China, which were 15 minutes.
Oh, mate. No, thanks.
Well,
Rob is looking at this. What are you talking about? Why would you do that?
15 minutes.
It was because you got to remember, China has no stars. The sky is black from pollution and everything else. So basically, there's no sun, there's no starlights and stuff like that. The area that I was shooting in was pitch black. So basically, I shot a temple, and when you look at the photo, you actually think it's daylight. It's
right. So what, you're F22 at 15 minutes at ISO 50 or something?
It was. That's actually pretty much right on the ball.
Geez,
Yeah.
What, with a neutral density filter on there as well?
No. That's to
Big
take it to that.
stopper, the big stopper.
The big stopper, yeah. So I was there for 4.5 weeks. But I actually do use the big stopper for stuff during daylight. I was doing a shoot on top of the Sydney Harbour Bridge. I was going to say Westgate, but no, Sydney Harbour Bridge. And I did a 3-minute exposure during the day and had that filter on. And basically, once I got the photo done, everything that was solid, including the bridge, the buildings and all that, were all perfectly, sharp.
Yep.
But there wasn't a single person, a single car, single anything anywhere. It was just the buildings and that type of thing I love doing. People are like, they look at the photo and they're like, where are the people? And I'm like,
Do you use a filter like that?
I've tried in the past. It's probably not my style, to be honest with you. The longest exposure that I've probably done was maybe a minute or maybe 2, if anything.
But you usually shoot at F9, F11, somewhere around there?
Landscape mine, probably about F11 to 16. And then I'll probably put a ND some sort, depending on obviously the light. But yeah, I'm not a big fan of a long,
They're handy
2,
when
3,
you're doing
4.
like waterfalls and things like that.
Oh yeah, but
But you can still get that effect with...
with 2 minutes, 1 minute even, you know what I mean? To me that, I don't know. Rob, what do you think?
No, look, I've used them before, especially if you're you want that sort of mood and it's quite a bright day. It creates that mist.
Yeah.
The longer you go.
So if you go to exotic countries, like the Balis, and you
just go to the Otways.
Yeah, that's it.
They got some beautiful waterfalls down there.
Totally agree, man. We've been there, done that.
We did. That was actually one of the first trips we did together.
Well, a good 5-6 years ago.
And your polarizer, you need one of those.
Yeah, definitely polarizer. Actually, you probably polarizer is probably one of the best.
The irony is, I've got so many polarizers at home, and I never use them.
Why not?
I just don't ever use them. I don't know why.
How can you not?
I just don't.
Well, you should. You know what? Just take one with you, and you just notice that it just changes the saturation.
No,
I
appreciate it. For some reason, though, even when I take it with me, I just don't use them. And look, I agree with you. It does change the composition and the colours and the reflections and everything, 100%. I've got Schneider polarizers at home worth hundreds upon hundreds of dollars, and
I can't justify that cost, unfortunately. So
I really need to take it out more often, don't I?
You should
for that price, yeah.
It's just such solid glass, you knock it somewhere and dang, it's gone.
All right, we're veering off the topic a bit. I think.
All right. Anyway, so okay. So I have to ask, right?
Oh.
The most traumatizing experience you've had overseas whilst doing photography?
Rob, I think maybe you got the most interesting one, I think, out of all of us.
Do you reckon?
Yeah, I think so.
Well, mine was definitely at Varanasi.
India.
For people who don't know, Varanasi, it's a very holy town where they do a lot of the cremations.
Yeah.
Or people who are wealthy, they send the bodies there to be cremated because of the holy air, and it's right across the whole waterfront there.
Yeah.
And I was walking through there, and they say that don't take photos just through respect. There's a lot of steps involved from the water's edge up to the building's top. And
with that, can I just say, if people haven't been to Varanasi, if you think of a fairly wide Ganges river, the whole city is actually on the one side of the river, and then the other side is literally nothing.
It's just land. It's flat.
Yeah.
And I think that's got to do with when the sun sets or something. It nothing obstructs the sunlight hitting the town.
Okay. But yeah, one of the sides obviously has got very steep stairs, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
So I was walking along, going past where they were doing a lot of the cremations, and they were bringing a body in, and as the 4 unfortunate gentlemen were walking down, one of the ones at the front with the stretcher slipped a little bit, dropped his stretcher.
Ouch.
I ended up having to see a body fall off the stretcher, roll down step after step after step, and slowly unmask itself from its from the shrine, I suppose. That's what they were wrapped in, and
I mean, you're a medic photographer, so you have probably seen obviously that kind of.
Well,
thing.
yeah. Oh, look, to me, it wasn't an issue. Seeing, I've seen a lot of dead bodies, so that wasn't an issue. I think I know.
It's just a shock of it, maybe.
No, it wasn't shock. It was more amusement watching these people run around like some Benny Hill show, running around frantically picking up bits and pieces and dragging it on the stretch and trying to drag it up behind the seat.
Yeah, that can be a bit disturbing, I guess. Yeah.
It was. Yeah. I was like, oh wow, this is good.
That's interesting.
Yeah. So
all right. Back into it. I personally, so I think for me, I don't really have as such of a situation. I think from my end is just when I went to Norway up north. It was just so cold. So that was kind of, you kind of walk around and you hoping to catch obviously a great image, but it's so cold that you kind of freeze your bum off, and you just I don't know, I don't really have any exciting things to say.
That's your version of traumatizing.
That is, I don't know, no man. I don't know, I'm sorry.
Disappointing us now.
Oh, come on, Evan.
Come on, Evan.
My one was actually in China. I was in a hotel with my family. I was traveling with the family. It wasn't actually meant to be a photography trip, but I was going a little bit stir crazy, and I think it was about 2 o'clock in the morning. I was
at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah,
it's always at 2 o'clock in the morning. If it's not running around nude in the outback, it's getting up and doing photography.
I thought that would have been traumatic.
It was traumatizing for everyone there except for me. So anyway, it was 2 o'clock in the morning. I hadn't really had an opportunity to get out and take any photos, so I was getting a bit antsy. So I grabbed my camera and left. Didn't tell anyone where I was going, and I started walking. We were staying at a hotel. It was behind Tiananmen Square. I walked all the way around to one of the temples, and that's actually where I did my 15-minute exposure. So I'm sitting in the pitch black, taking photos. And I finished that photo. I looked at the back of it. Looked sensational. I'm like, yeah, this is a great photo. Let's continue on. So mind you, I'm probably a good 5 kilometers away from the hotel by walk. And so I'm walking along, and I see this bridge. And I'm like, oh, wow, look, there's a waterway underneath this bridge, and there's buildings on either side, and this is going to be a great long exposure photo again. So I set up the camera, pull out my bag, sit down, and I'm sitting there, snacking away at something. The camera's doing a long exposure shot over the top of this bridge. And as I'm sitting there, I sense someone behind me, so automatically I turn around thinking I'm going to get mugged or robbed or something. It's 2 o'clock in the morning, 2:30 in the morning by this stage. And it was actually 3 police officers and 4 soldiers. And they were screaming at me in Chinese. And I, other than knowing a couple of...
What are you doing here?
It was pretty much, that's what they were saying, but not in English. And, other than saying thank you, where's the telephone, that sort of thing, I don't know how to communicate in Chinese. So I'm sitting there and they're screaming at me, and I'm just looking at them blankly saying, English, and it went on for a while, and they kept pointing at the camera. And I'm thinking, I don't really know what the hell's going on here, but I figured I've obviously done something to piss them off, and they're looking at the camera, so, And in China, you don't want to go off and upset the authorities, for obvious reasons. Yeah. So I showed them the camera, and I pressed the play button and started showing them the photos that were on there with my family, my wife, tourist attractions, and I'm showing them picture after picture after picture, and they sort of like, I guess at this stage they're looking at the pictures and they're thinking, okay, fair enough, he's just a tourist, a dumb Aussie. And one of them just started screaming, and he's pointing at the camera in my bag, like saying, put your camera in your bag and get out of here. And he's pointing over his shoulder, like, get the hell out of here. And they didn't have to ask me twice, man. Like, this had gone on for a while. And I packed up my stuff and I took off. And I'm heading back to the hotel. Now, mind you, it's 5 kilometers roughly back to the hotel. And as I'm walking along, they have surveillance cameras, probably every 20, 30 meters. I've never seen so many surveillance cameras in my life. And as I was walking past them, you could actually see the camera turning around and following you. So they're monitoring me all the way back.
Oh, my God.
So I get to Tiananmen Square, and I'm sitting there thinking, I'm going to get arrested, I'm going to die, I'm going to vanish.
Tank's going to come out soon.
Yeah, pretty much.
No tanks at that stage, though. I hope.
Well, down in mid-square.
So I'm basically like, freaking out still. I've been walking, I'm sweating, I'm panicking. I get back to the hotel, and the person who works behind the counter looks at me and goes, "Are you okay?" I must have looked white or something, And I said to him, I don't know what happened. There was these police officers and these soldiers, and they were behind me screaming at me. And he's like, "Where were you?" And I was trying to explain to him. And he had no idea what the hell I was talking about. So I showed him the photos because I'd taken the long exposure. And as he sees the photo, he goes, oh, yeah. And what had happened was I was on top of a bridge taking a photo of this river, but what I didn't realise was Parliament House was on one side and the military base was on the other. You're not meant to take photos of military bases or government buildings. So, but there was no signage. I even if there was, I probably wouldn't have known anyway. And that's what it came down to. I got to tell you, I've never panicked so much in my life. And you know, it probably sounds like a crappy story, but when you're in that situation, no one knows where you are. Yeah, you know, and knowing that you could vanish at any second, traumatizing.
Yeah. All right. Well, since you guys are talking about traumatizing, I'm gonna think of a funny story then, because I don't really have any trauma stuff, you know, because you know, that's just me, you know. So my funny story was with Rob. Actually, we were in one of the villages in Nepal, and I can't remember the name of the village.
This was up past Pokhara, wasn't it?
Yeah, we kind of oh my god, what have been.
It was one of the hikes, and we were in
one of the Tangting village or something like that. It's one of the hikes.
Tangting, yeah, and you can see the Himalayan peaks.
Oh yeah, just, it was brilliant.
Yeah,
view,
beautiful
you know?
through the valley there.
Yeah, it was so fantastic. Old village, you know. You walk out and you can see the sort of roof from old straw and all these different things. And we got up really early in the morning as well, didn't we?
It was before sunrise,
5:30, 6 o'clock in the morning, something like that. Cold, and it's so cool. And
but there was no wind. It was very peaceful.
Yeah, it was very peaceful.
Tranquil,
very peaceful. And I'm sitting there taking my time lapse and just enjoying the view, and we just have a chat. And all of a sudden, I can hear.
And that wasn't me, by the way.
No, that wasn't me. and then I was like, oh my god, what the hell is going on? And we can see this 90-year-old woman coming out of her hound, coming out of her
clearing her passageway.
Clearing her passageway, and just going big, spit down on the ground, just like I'm like, oh yeah, that was cool. That's just funny. Yeah, but I just thought I'd add that in. So there you go.
Yeah, it made the sunset quite funny, didn't it?
Yeah, it did, man. It was a beautiful sunrise.
Sunrise. I apologize. It was sunrise. Yeah,
but yeah, it was just hilarious, just to sort of stand there and just get the peacefulness of the surrounding.
I did find that going to a lot of the Asian countries that even the older women, they tend to spit on the road quite often.
Yeah.
I found that in China quite a lot. I don't know about Evan. Did you notice any of that when you went to China? It was confronting for me because you see this 80-year-old lady in front, and all of a sudden you just
I honestly can't say I remember that, but that's probably because I wasn't paying attention. But
it's quite amazing what you see when you go over to. I found, look, I haven't been to Europe and things like that, but going to a lot of the Asian sort of style countries, some of the things that you see and witness, you just will not see.
Yeah.
Different
culture, different, people, and, these people have been obviously, when we went through Nepal and, and even South America when we went, all these people have been brought up in little villages. And all they know is obviously, just work, and, I don't know. It is a culture shock, and that's why I love it. I enjoy travel and seeing that. When we went to South America, went to Patagonia, to Chile, it was fantastic. But you think that people speak English a little bit, and no one speaks English over there, So you kind of
really,
So you think South America, close to North America, where North America obviously everyone speaks English. In Chile, there's literally no one that speaks English. I was just really actually,
I found that in China. In Japan, a lot of people, there were people that do speak English, but in China, no. Okay. I don't think you could find anybody. If you did, maybe a couple of words here and there. That was really difficult.
Yeah. But see, I've had the complete opposite.
Oh, really?
I go to places and I find that if you make an effort to speak the language, as badly as it is, they will also make an effort to speak back to you in your language.
That's true. Yeah.
And in some places you go over, if you make no effort, they're not going to bother with you at all.
But talking Chinese is very, very difficult.
Well, I do know a couple of words like
Ni hao.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's probably as much as I learned. I'm really bad with.
What
languages.
I did though? When I went to Japan, I've downloaded this app, and the app actually
It
You
teaches
can-
you swearing words in different.
Yeah, no. But what it does is you open up your camera and you can actually put the camera on or take a photo of the actual writing or whatever else, and it will actually translate it back to English. And then there's another app as well where you can actually say it in English, and then it will actually translate it straight away without actually typing anything out. So it's communication-wise, you can communicate, which I've done that in South America with Spanish.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
That's handy.
yeah, it definitely is.
That's similar to the Google Goggles, I think it's called, which is basically you can take a photo using the Goggles app, which is a Google app. And what it does is, if, like, for example, you're in an art gallery and you take a photo of a picture of an art piece, it will actually tell you who wrote it, who produced it. You can actually take a photo of a bridge out in the street, and it will actually tell you what the bridge is.
So it translates the signs.
Yeah, so basically,
So-
it's not translate signs. Actually, it recognizes the landmarks. It actually it looks into the database and says, "This looks like this. This is what it is."
Oh, right. Okay.
So possibly,
there's so many different apps up there. You know what I mean?
technology is amazing.
Yeah, well, I've been using photo pills a lot as well for my photography, and just to catching the sunrises, sunsets, timing, moon phases, things like that. Tide, you know, it's the amazing. You know, yeah, it's good.
One thing that we actually spoke to Rob about in a past episode, it was quite a few weeks ago now.
Yeah.
When we were talking to you about the Royal Children's Hospital, you were talking to us about some of your early photography stuff that you did using film at weddings.
Oh, yes.
And just wanted to ask you, you know, by comparison to, a couple of weeks ago we had a wedding photographer on the show, and we spoke about, you know, the things that he finds in today's day and age, you know, the type of issues he finds, the bridezillas, the yada yada yada. Rob,
You haven't done weddings for obviously good 15 plus years.
Yep. That's right.
and back in those days you had film,
Yes.
as opposed to digital cameras.
Correct.
So, what do you think's different?
Okay. Look, just I hadn't heard that episode with the wedding photography, so I'm not sure if I'm going to repeat things or what was mentioned there. So just so you know, I will catch up on that episode. Trust me, after this. Look, it was film. I mean, at the time, it didn't know any different. So it wasn't any difficult. You know, it wasn't difficult at the time, as such, going through it. But now looking back, yeah, it was.
Is that because you didn't know any better? Obviously,
you had no better. We didn't have a digital camera, so you had the film, and that's how we did it. You just did it that way. But yeah, looking back, yeah, it's very, very difficult. You really needed to know photography. You needed to be able to see light, because you knew a good photographer from a bad when you go out to a park and you'll see, and there's a guy sitting there, full sunlight, and he's sitting on f16 full flash with his Mets at 250 at f16, just bang bang, all every family shot. You know, my light meter was my, was the blood of photography. You know, so you could, read the light, see the light, know what the light was doing.
After a while, though, you know what the exposure would be. You know what I mean? Like at the moment, when I'm sort of out and about, and I hardly use my light meter within the camera, but I know that exposure will be f16 at 250th of a second.
But the thing is, you can take that photo and sort of say to yourself, this is what the setting should be, and you can then look at the picture and go,
true.
oh yeah, I was right. No, it was overexposure. Back then, you didn't get that chance.
No, you didn't. And we didn't have histograms either. So you really needed to know zones and know, the level of zones, so you know where your highlights were and where your shadows were, and in between, and know what was going to blow out or what wasn't going to have detail, and what you needed to do to get the exposure.
So you obviously did full day of a wedding as well, right?
Yeah, that was full day. So I mean,
walk us through that.
Look, generally it might be 8, 9 o'clock at the groom's home. Who knows where he was living? Then you head off to the bride's home. From the bride's home. And, when you go there, you do portraits of each person, couples, like the bride with each bridesmaid, her mum and dad, combinations of multiple combinations, and a lot of different backgrounds, and, trying to create. And a lot of times you walk into a home and it was a mess. So, you use the train as a backdrop and tulle and all that sort of stuff.
Wow.
And filters. Make your own, you'd have a UV filter, but you'd get a bit of nail polish and put it around the edges, and nice soft focus on the outside.
I've never done that before, but okay.
Vignettes and You know, because you didn't have those things you could do in Photoshop.
Yeah, true.
Those filters had to be used there and then onto the film.
So did you bring a bucket load and wheelbarrow full of equipment?
Look,
Like
I
how
used,
many cameras?
yeah.
What's the film? How many?
Okay, so I used Hasselblad back then.
Oh wow. Okay.
So you'd have 2 bodies just in case one broke down because you'd need backup.
Yep.
You'd have 2 or 3 backs so that you have them. That's on the back of the Hasselblad. You have it's like you load the film up on a back that clips on.
Old school.
Little slide, dark slide that you pull out so you can expose. And there was a lot of times if there was a lot of guys who were using the Mamirs where it was very easy to leave the slide in and still take photos. So you'd end up like shooting 5, 6, 7, 10 shots and then go, oh, what the hell? Oh shit! I've left the slide in. I've got nothing on.
Yeah.
But I'd never had that issue. And so you'd really have to time it then you'd go to like say the church, and if you're in the church, things move fast, and so you finish a roll. Oh geez, they're about to kiss or exchanging rings. Boom, new back up you get. So you'd have a few backs. You'd have your big Mets flash, big tripod Manfrotto. It wasn't these carbon ones. These were heavy duty mother ass tripods. Big heads on those Manfrottos.
Industrial crane.
Then you'd have your 35mm.
Wow.
You'd have at least 3 or 4 lenses.
Yeah. What lens would you use for that?
So you'd have we're going back a long time. You know that.
I'm picking your brain, baby.
Yeah. So it was like a 150.
Would you have a 50mm in there?
Yeah, it was
85, 50, yeah.
Yeah, 150.
Oh, well, 150. Okay.
Because you're talking about, it's 120 that we're using. A wide angle, couple of the standard lens, a long lens and a wide angle.
Yeah, okay.
And then you've got camera bag, you got your reflectors, because we'll pump. I used to love using natural light. So I hardly ever use my flash. The only time I use my flash was usually at the reception. Yeah. Obviously, low light and they're walking, doing dances and things. Yeah. And if I was doing night shots, because we're doing them like, say, at Parliament House and that, you're very yellow. So you just need a little fill flash just to whiten it up, whiten the dress, whiten the skin tones especially.
Sorry, Rob, your flashes, was it the ones with the gunpowder?
Yes, that's it. And I put my head under a blanket. Well, at uni, we did. I used 4.5 and, it used to be like that. But, with the weddings, it was a couple of bags and, 20 rolls of 120, for instance, if it was a big wedding.
Can you remember...
six rolls of 35 or so.
Yeah, okay. Because you're shooting the 120. Okay. How many exposures would you get per roll?
You get 12.
Oh, only 12 images
per roll, yeah.
Holy crackers, you can't spray and pray, baby.
There's nothing like... You know what? I tell you what, when you used to have a big family, because all the family, they wouldn't want family shots, and you'd have... You couldn't afford to be doing 2-3 shots for each family shot, and you might have 10, 15, 12 people in a shot, and I become really good at actually... I'll take another one because that person blinked. But most of the time it'd be a one shot, bang, all good. Because you just sort of look through and you're not looking through the camera. Yeah. You've sized it up, you're focused. You then look at it blankly looking and you can just pick, you blinked, I'll do that one again. You sort of feel it.
You get it, yeah, that's right.
You feel it. I generally never had blinks.
Can you remember, this is my own curiosity, so you got 12 images per roll. Can you remember more or less how much did it cost to develop that?
Yeah, no, I'm not back there. I'm saying 12, but I also had the Pentax 6.7, which I think was only 10.
Oh, wow.
10 shots for the Pentax 6.7, and that was a beautiful camera. How much was it? Back then it could have been 10, 15 bucks a process. Okay. Then you got the roll of film on top. It wasn't cheap. And that's a while ago.
I guess the pricing is kind of almost similar to what it was though, isn't it? Like back then, because you still would have charged $2,000-$3,000 for a wedding, right?
No. I mean, I think when I first started, I think if you got like $200 for a wedding, you were
crap. That's the cost of the film.
No. I mean, as in what you got for the date.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I've got a question. So in today's day and age, when you're doing weddings and you got the bridezilla who wants 2,000, 3,000 photos, how did you cope with the bridezillas of the time who wanted lots of photos? And I mean, to have that many photos, you'd need to have a wagon outside of all your films in there. I mean, 10 shots per canister of film is a lot of space to be able to get a lot of shots.
Oh, absolutely. But see, a lot of all the photos we did were like we posed them. You know, we learned, you know, posing and setting up every shot. Took time, and I never had that issue. All the brides and grooms that came, they loved the style, they liked what they saw, and so they trusted you to do it, and you basically became the MC for the day, because if you're running late, it all ran late. You know, it was as soon as you come out of the church, everyone would look to the photographer and say, okay, where are we going?
Yeah, the photographer was always the person that kept the time, make sure that everything's moving.
Kept it running.
Yeah, and I think it's still happening to this day, because I mean, I've shot in the past few weddings, and I haven't done a lot of photography weddings, but I've done a lot of videography weddings, and I've noticed the same thing. Always the sort of photographer kept the timing.
Yeah, well, look, you know, you come out of church and it's raining, everyone just goes to the photographer, where we're going.
Yeah.
And the videographer, well, where are we going for, you know, the cars, where we going, you know. Right. So you know, and you got to run it so that they're not running late, and get them to the, you know, reception on time and everything else. And it really became an integral part of their day. Yeah. All the way to the end, and night shots, and almost, you know, I've took photos in, you know, to their, you know, to the motel room. And then I left.
Yeah, that's a good idea. That's a good idea.
Sure you did. So in today's society, one of my peeve hates is when I've done a lot more photography at weddings than I've done videos. So complete opposite to you, Marty. But I'm there taking photos, and one of the guests comes up to me with their mobile phone and says, "Can you take some photos for me?"
Wow,
that's my pet hate. What did you have?
Look, your pet hate was when you were taking photos all day, and you'd have somebody right next to you taking the exact same shots you were taking. You know, I would stop. I'd just stop taking photos and said, listen, you go for it. I'm going to give you your 5, 10, 15 minutes. You can take the bride and groom, take all the photos you want, and then can I just do my job? Because it was really annoying, because they basically would copy everything you did. And with us, you know, being film, we needed to sell prints. So if they were just processing themselves and making their own prints, there was no need for us. They were just using our talent. Whereas when you, like with digital, I suppose there's not as much expense, like with the processing and proofing and the time involved of cutting the needle and that. So a lot of our time was already spent, and the money was already invested. So yeah, having people just over your shoulder.
And we have talked about the talent in the previous shows, where people hire us not just to click a photo, but they actually hire us for knowledge, just anybody, any other trade, you know, like the sparkies and plumbers and stuff. You know, you have that knowledge to be able to get that image that's worth $1 million.
Oh yeah, well then, you know, capturing their day, and you don't want to ruin their day. I mean, I started getting away from weddings, or where it drove me nuts probably was because, you know, you go to a bride's home and the bridesmaids were like, oh, isn't she the most beautiful bride you've ever seen? Yeah, okay. And, oh, you should see where we're going to go for photos. You know, we're going to go down the alley. Oh, it's going to be so great and so different. You know, oh, you should see the cars we got. You know, the cars rock up. G'day, Frank. G'day, Rob. Same place like last week. Yeah, mate. You know, I was just with you know, I've done that car. So, you know, but to them it's unique. But as, you know, doing weddings for so long, it was the same. And but there's been some brilliant stories. You know, I've had some funny episodes of you know, rushing to. There was one. If you don't mind, if
mate, go ahead, man. I'm all ears.
I got to a bride's home and they had some antique cars, and they were running late. The bride was just running seriously late, and I had an old Mazda 626 with different coloured panels on my car, and the starter motor wouldn't, you know, it was a bit of a nightmare of a car, but, you know, because I was a uni student, you know, and paying my way. And so the bride, all the bridal party that left early, and the bride left last with her dad. And we're driving along the freeway, and I was behind, and all of a sudden I'm going down the Eastern Freeway, and there's a white bonnet sitting in the middle of the freeway. So I've gone around it, and there's the Rolls Royce just parked up on the left. And the bride and father are out of the car. So I've pulled up behind them. the bride comes running to me because she was half an hour late. She was half an hour at that stage. She was half an hour late to the church, and we had to get to West Melbourne. And so she's just come to me, opened my back door, and said, "You got to drive me to the church." I'm going, "Are you serious?" All right. So she's hopped in, and Dad's hopped in, and it was a big Italian wedding in West Melbourne, and everyone's out the front waiting for the bride to arrive in this nice, beautiful Rolls Royce, and here I rock up with this
An awesome Mazda.
1982 Mazda with different coloured panels, and look, I did the right thing and drove into the church and up to the stairs, and got out and opened the door for her, but said, "Hey, look, you got to wait because I've got to take photos too. Let me just quickly park my car." So everyone's out there, and I go into the car and go to start. I'm like, I'm like, "Oh shit, I'll just leave the car here, bugger it. Let's go into church. We're going to get married."
The old school days.
That was there's plenty of things like that.
Oh, yeah. So how long have you actually done the wedding market for?
Let me see. I don't know. I'd say I was probably close to 15 years.
Well, okay. That's
but then there was all commercial shoots as well, portraits, and we did all our own black and white printing and processing as well. There was which really taught you a lot about what you were doing and how to do it, and it was fun. Custom black and white printing, and I think Evan, you've mentioned you got a love for that, and I always I want to start up a little homeroom, dark room, and do black and white. I think it's definitely an art in that.
Yeah, and it's I've always enjoyed it. I actually miss it. The red light, black and white. You could actually have a red light. And having the smell of developer and all the rest of the chemicals. It's
burning your skin.
never had that problem.
That's what tongs are for.
Yeah, true. Yeah, okay. Maybe I should use that as them. Yeah. Rob, last question. Just want to ask you, do you have any mentors that you sort of looked at in the past, and sort of have you worked for yourself only, or did you actually work in a studio, or was it sort of mentorship a little bit?
Yeah.
Like, is there anyone that you like to give a shout out to? I guess.
Oh, look, there's a few. There's a couple early on, just a uni student, Darko, who was doing custom color printing in his laundry in the backyard, and which was to me quite a it's not easy doing your own custom color printing.
Colors a nightmare.
Yeah, in a laundry. And it just seeing, and he was a student photographer, and that was quite a little bit inspiring. And then also with when I was doing the big custom mural prints, there was an old lady there who was the sort of quality control of color. She taught me color. She taught me to see 5 cc of yellow or magenta, and that taught me a lot and really helped me.
So you obviously learned a lot through doing stuff rather than actually reading books.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
okay.
Absolutely. Yeah. And then Elio Rulli from Studios Photography. He's been
around for a long time.
He has been around for a long time. Yeah, he used to be in Pasco Vale there. We worked. I worked with him for most of all my wedding photography, and so
he shot my wedding.
Well,
a long time ago.
Wow. There you go. So that, being with him for so many years, and we just become great friends, and so he was just, it was great to.
And I think
with him,
I think that the whole photography is about creating that friendship, and you're having a person that you speak the same language to.
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously, this shows you, like you've been obviously mates with Elio and whoever else for a very long time. You know what I mean? And you find that common passion, and you sort of can relate to a lot of things, and the friendship just stays there, and it's really
absolutely
strong.
And look, to be honest with you, just even photographers in general, other photographers, I find I can learn from them as well, and like you guys, for instance, traveling with you guys, looking at different ways of, like, with your time lapse and things like that, you're sort of like, oh, that's cool. I'd like to try that. I want to try something different. And so you guys sort of are also traveling with you, mentoring.
Yeah, look, we'll learn from each other. I've learned heaps of stuff from Evan, and I'm sure, I hope Evan learned from me as well. But like learning of each other, and obviously just that knowledge passing, and just the friendship. I think that's what it's all about. You know what I mean? Yeah,
it's experiencing life in the world as photographers as well.
No, that's right.
And sharing that
Yeah,
is special.
You don't just go there for nothing. You actually be able to get memories and and everything on film and digital and whatever else.
I mean, look, when we were like India and Nepal, sitting there together, setting up, taking these amazing images.
Yeah.
And seeing, oh, that looks good. Oh, how'd you do? And capturing that was, it's really special when you're sharing it with friends.
Yeah.
And you're there experiencing it, and that was great. So you guys for sure.
Thanks, man.
Oh, shucks.
I know that paid me to say that.
Yeah. I almost had a tear there, my life.
Yeah. Get over it.
Well, that brings us to the end of another episode.
Yeah, that was a good one.
It was.
I enjoyed that one.
I did too.
Rob has obviously got wealth of knowledge, and he'll be here for, I'm sure, plenty more episodes.
Oh, you mean you might invite me back?
Do you want to be back?
Well, what's the topic? You'll have to tell me later.
How about you come up with one, and then we can talk about it?
That's interesting. I'll come. Okay, I can walk in with something. All right. What's that?
Well.
All right, thanks heaps.
Thanks, everyone. Thanks, Rob, for coming
in. Thank you for inviting me again.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it.
Thanks.
And don't forget, feel free to follow us so that every time we release a new session, you can actually be notified of it. And
keep on forgetting about that, actually.
Yeah,
keep on saying that. People don't forget. Yeah, you got to hit that subscribe button.
Yeah, so you can be
If
notified.
you really like us, hit it 3 times. Not just twice, 3 times.
And the best part about it is we don't try and sell you anything.
No, that's right.
Boom.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, also, if you'd like to catch up with us on our websites, you can reach me at Pixel Life, so www.pixellife with a single L.com.au. Marty?
Nah, just catch me on Instagram or Facebook or something. Melbourne Images.
You love Instagram.
I don't mind it. There's been a bit of controversy there a few times, but no.
Rob, I'm going to ask you, what's your favourite media outlet? Is it Instagram, Facebook, web pages?
Rob is old school, man. He does film photography, man. What are you talking about?
Hey, look, I don't have any of those, and I got Facebook, but only for Messenger. And you'll be very surprised. I don't even have the internet at my house.
No way.
So that's how old school I am.
Do you live in a cave?
No. I just I'm not a social media every time man. But I know. It's sort of some people sort of go, "What? Seriously? How can somebody not have internet in their home?" But
every time Rob makes a phone call, you hear in the background.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I don't even have a point. I've got no point, internet point.
So what do you do? Rub 2 sticks together and have a blanket and smoke signals?
Hey, I enjoy life. Let's put it that way.
How do you order your Uber?
Hey, you don't have to live in a computer, all right? I'm not a digital man. I'll use it, but yeah.
Thanks, Robbie.
Cheers.
All right. All the best, guys. Thank
Take
you.
care.
Ciao.
Bye-bye.
Bye.